Hello, and welcome to a kindness episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, Nathan Binkle of Nathan's Drywall. He's an active drywaller, a family man, and an all-around good guy. Nathan and I discuss his relationship with Brawley's Dad Construction, aka Shawn Ramsden, his experience in the culinary industry, and how one time he wasted a week at Tim Hortons.
So Tim Hortons, they had like a texture on their walls and bulkheads and everything that we were smoothing out. So I was told on the first time that I'm taping, okay, we need you to smooth out these bulkheads. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And they said, just put the mud on and take it off. And I'm like, okay, that sounds easy enough. So I'm literally putting it on and taking it off. I do this for like a week. And then I go on my honeymoon with my wife, my fresh wife, who just married and everything. And I come back from my honeymoon and I ask the big boss, I'm like, hey, how's it going? How did that Tim Hortons turn out? And he looks at me and he goes, fucking terrible. And I'm like, what? And he was like, yeah, he's like, I had to do the whole thing all over again.
Yeah,
like,
we had to redo it.
Yeah, he's like, what were you doing there? I was like, I don't know. I was told just to put the mud on and take it off. He's like, well, you have to leave a little on. He's like, we're trying to smooth out the thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's not what I was told. And
There's more stories where that came from. This month's episodes are sponsored by our friends over the pond in Swindon, England at GWI, supplying the UK with drywall finishing products since 2021, delivering quality brands nationwide. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, or online at www.gwiltd.com for all your finishing needs. Guests of the Drywall Podcast will receive a sweet swag bucket from our friends at CSR in Toronto. These swag buckets will have a shirt, you get a CSR bucket, a 10-pack of 3-ways, a Spy Sponge set, a Merriman beige color pack, a top coat, and also a Tech Dry tool from Tech Dry. If you would like to order lots of cool drywall stuff or anything drywall, you can go online to csrbuilding.com and find stuff there. I know you're bored with the preamble, so without further ado, Nathan Binkle of Nathan's Drywall on the 57th podcast of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. There he is.
Perfect. I can't believe I did it.
Easy peasy. You've been on Brawley's Dad's podcast, so right?
Yes. That one I was physically sitting in the room with him though. So.
Oh right.
Yeah, I just let him do all the work, and I just kind of sat there and looked pretty.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I'll try and do the same thing today.
Too late. You already look gorgeous.
Aw, you're sweet.
We got Nathan Binkle of Nathan's Drywall, the famous Nathan's Drywall out of Erin, Ontario, with us on the Drywall Podcast today. How exciting is this?
It's very exciting. I was very surprised when you asked me to be on. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I don't know. I was really surprised when Brawley's Dad asked me too. I'm just kind of like, I don't think of myself as podcast material, but here I am, and I'm going to do my best and forget the rest.
You want to know a little secret? Nobody is. No drywallers. No drywallers belong on any podcast.
No. Well, let's prove everyone wrong then. I'm
feeling a little surly today. I'm not sure. My dad's trying to call like 1 second after I start a podcast. I know better than to have my phone on, but and then the old man, it's like he tries to call twice and it's like, okay, is something wrong? Has he fallen or some shit,
Yeah, you're like, should I pick that up? I don't know. Like,
is he bleeding? Is he bleeding out?
Get it. I set my phone to do not disturb, and I'm like sitting in the Zoom room waiting for you to come on, and then finally I was
Yeah.
like, man, like he's not on yet. Maybe I should message. And then I went on Instagram and I saw your message. Hey, are we doing this thing?
Oh,
I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, yes, okay, yeah. Sorry, I was sitting there waiting and I didn't get any
no, it was
notifications.
okay.
So
We kind of said we said 2:45 your time. So cool. Let's jump into this. Nathan's Drywall. Do you listen to the Drywall podcast?
Um, I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts, but since I
Okay.
found out about yours and Brawley's dad's, of course, I kind of go back and forth and try and
Yeah.
listen here and there. I mean, generally I listen when I work, and a lot of times when I'm working, I need the music to keep me going.
Yeah.
But I did just listen to Christy Slade's the
Oh.
other day, and the one you did with Aaron's dad from Colombia.
Oh yeah, Bernie.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
Bernie. Yes, that one.
that's a
I
good
really
one.
like that one.
That's a
Yeah,
good one. Yeah. Oh
yeah, that
yeah.
was really cool.
And some of them, some of them have different energies, and then you have energy of like me reacting with the people. But you and I, you're a jolly fella. Like you and I've always had good interact, Shawn's pretty jolly.
Yeah,
Like, but it's energy. It's very interesting, but and cool too because we both have background in drywall. You're familiar with Fresco Harmony a little bit now. It's getting more popular in Canada. We can talk about, how you and Shawn met each other. But mostly, I think talking about different drywall people's experience in the industry, where they came from, and, what makes us tick, man. Why the
yeah.
hell would you choose this thankless, you know, nasty trade?
Yeah, yeah.
so,
I hear you. I like
so
that we're both wearing Brawley's dad hats too.
nice.
It's almost like we
Um,
coordinated that.
I just did. I threw on the Brawley's dad because because Shawn. As okay, so let's start there. How do you know Shawn Ramsden? So if you don't know, Shawn Ramsden does Brawley's dad construction. He's very active on social media. Huge proponent of Columbia Tools. He also has a podcast called Brawley's Dad Construction Podcast. You can catch him on Podbean, Spotify, and other. Now my sister's calling me. Stand by. We can cut this out.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can cut this
yeah,
out.
yeah.
What's going on?
Hey,
Hey.
Dad just called me. He said that he's tried you a couple times and your phone says
Yep.
number cannot be completed as dialed.
Yeah, I'm on a podcast. So can you like just text him and tell him that like I'll call him back?
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm glad to hear that nothing's severely wrong. Once your sister started calling, I'm like, oh God, this is like,
Yeah, then I
you
have to fucking
ignored the
take
phone
it.
call. Yeah,
God
yeah,
damn it. Fuck it. We'll leave it in. We'll leave it in. The old man's fine if you're wondering. So Brawley's dad, yeah, he runs a podcast and his name is Shawn Ramsden, and he's a great guy and he's a big proponent of Fresco Harmony and building community in the drywall industry. And you guys are kind of buds. Did that just sort of come to be, or have you always been friends with Shawn?
We actually just met shortly before the Fresco Harmony event at CSR
Okay.
that you did.
Okay.
So I started following him on Instagram. His stories are phenomenal. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes he's just telling you about his day. Sometimes he's bitching about
Yeah.
what's going on with work, and I just really resonated with most of what he was saying. So I reached out the one day, and I never want to be that creeper that's just messaging random people.
Yeah.
But I was like, I messaged him. I can't remember what he was talking about, but I think he was a little down. I think some people were ripping on him on Instagram or the social medias,
Sure.
and I just said, the heck with them. Like, I was like, whatever, man. I'm like, you're doing great, and just keep up all the good work. Those of us out here that are watching, we're loving it, and screw the
Yeah.
people that don't, right? And he was,
Yeah.
responsive and kind of got back to me right away, and we started talking through that, and then I finally got to meet
Okay.
him at the Fresco Harmony thing,
Okay.
and
So you're
yeah.
talking about the Black Friday event at CSR, or are you talking about the training?
No, the training. So
Okay.
the Black Friday event was the first one where I met you. I don't know if you remember me. I was that
I
weird little
do.
guy that came up to you first thing in the morning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was there like I got there at like 6 a.m. Like no one was even set up yet, right? Um,
Okay.
and I was planning on being there the whole day. And then of
Yeah.
course I picked up work and I had to go to work that day. And I saw
Okay.
you, and I just started seeing the Fresco Harmony stuff on Instagram, and I was like, "What is this?" I was so intrigued with your product, and
Interesting.
we were like about to walk by each other at the Black Friday event, and I was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you," and you were like, "About
Yeah.
what?" And I was like, "What is your product?" And you were
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
come with me. Let's go mix up a pail of mud, and we'll go through this." And
Okay. All right. Good.
so, I mean,
That sounds like me. Like, let's go mix some and make a sample.
oh yeah, you
No,
were
no,
super
no
nice. I was
biggie.
like, "Oh, this is awesome," and I was there till like 7:30 watching you mix up a pail, and then you kind of put on your first coat on something, and then we had kind of, all these people had kind of come around and they're asking you all these questions, and I was like, oh, I kind of was hoping that I'd be able to talk to you a little bit, and I was like, I gotta go, so I kind of just like snuck
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
and I didn't even get to say goodbye because we're in the middle of your demonstration,
But I
and
think
then
I started following you after that, and then
yes.
I was following Shawn. So did you meet Shawn at that event?
No, because he didn't make it there till later in the day, and that was like that Black
Okay.
Friday event was the one where I was like, oh, good, I get to finally meet Christy and Brawley's dad, and
Yeah.
like all these people that I've been following, and then of
Yeah.
course I didn't get to see anybody because I ended up having to work. So you
Nice.
know, I'm really happy that we've kind of first of all, this community is kind of coming together, and that we're
Yeah.
having more of these events that we get to go hang out and see each other at. So
Yeah, and it's nice of you Canadians to invite us lowly Americans up there to play in all your little reindeer games.
yeah. Well, I mean, good people are good people. So, I mean,
Yeah.
especially from what I've seen, I think really, I follow like you and Cam, and
Yeah.
I was telling Shawn the other day when we were golfing, I was like, man, Cam, I started seeing his videos, and I really wanted to be like, you know what, screw this guy with his mustache
Yeah.
and laid back attitude and everything. And then I started following, and I'm like, God, this guy's cool. I really like him.
Yeah.
So I
He
actually reached out to him recently too, and he's such a nice
yeah.
guy.
He's so hard. He's hard not to like just like you instantly want to. I remember like he's why I got to CSR, I mean,
Oh yeah,
because I reached out to him. I got hooked up with Columbia because Columbia was all over Cam early on. And I was like, oh, I got to interview this guy. And I wanted to interview him because he was younger. His interview is pretty good, but it's more his energy, than anything.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
very attractive, and just hanging out with those guys and meeting the all of the people in person, very cool, very cool. So and all of the people, Phil and Brian, and there's just all these drywall characters, and Kayla, and Meg's fantastic, like
Oh yeah,
so
she's hilarious.
yeah, so many great people, and we all share this weird bond of drywall, like
Yeah,
and it's like, hey, you don't have to be ashamed anymore.
yeah,
We're all in this
and
together.
it's funny because when I started in this trade, I was working commercial drywall and commercial taping, um,
Okay.
and working for that company. It's weird because you hear about other drywallers or see you're in a building doing a drywall project, and then there's another drywall company doing a project elsewhere in the building,
Yep.
and we kind of have that like nose up, like, oh, who the hell are these guys, get
Yeah.
the heck out of here. And
Yeah.
now that I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm kind of more on the socials, and I see more of and like it's not like that, nobody's got their nose up, no one's pissy or childish about it. We're
It's a
all kind of
shift. I had to do it too. It's a conscious shift. And like, I wanted to do it too. And I'm selling a product. Like, how arrogant is it of me to go, put down someone or get like, try to get the better of somebody or look down my nose at somebody when I'm in, not only am I in the same trade, but I'm trying to sell them my product. It doesn't, and if somebody is mean, you really have to just let that go and let it go and let it go. And also concentrate on not being mean, because I think that if we're more open, we all sort of want the same thing. And I think the more we build the community and the more people like you I meet, especially through the podcast, it's just awesome. It's so awesome that, you don't have to go home and talk to your wife about drywall. Now you have actual people that actually care about what you're saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, my wife appreciates that too, I think.
Yeah. It takes the burden off of all of our significant others' shoulders.
Yeah.
So, are you first generation drywaller?
Yes.
Okay.
So I kind of fell
what
into
happened?
this accidentally.
Why in the world drywall?
Well, I worked out in Alberta. I went out there when I was like 19. I did an apprenticeship to be a chef, of which eventually I absolutely hated.
Okay. Christy's kind of a chef too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see her posting her food on Instagram. Oh, God,
Yeah.
It makes me so hungry when people post such tasty looking things.
Yeah.
And I don't need anybody making me feel hungry because.
Yeah. So you studied to be a chef.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
What kind of chefery school did you go to? Was it like a qualified thing? How does that work?
Well, I didn't actually get there. So I started my apprenticeship. I was studying under an executive chef out in Alberta. Okay. And basically you accumulate so many hours and then you go do your semester of schooling and then you go do more hours. Then you go back and do your second year and so forth. And you need so many hours to go and do that time in school, right?
Okay.
And it's just like if you were to go to do an apprenticeship for drywall or go to school for drywall or whatever, you want to get your red seal. That's the main attraction, right?
Okay.
So I never made it to school. The restaurant that I was working at and the executive chef that I was working under, the restaurant got bought out and we all had to go our separate ways. And I ended up going and working at a ritzy restaurant with this under this executive chef from Au Paris.
Nice.
Chef Henri was his name.
Henri.
Chef Henri. Yeah. And yeah, I think I did 3 months there, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this. This is terrible.
Okay.
And I just kind of
what attracted you to that direction early on?
To be a chef?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like food?
Yeah, I like food. I think I moved out west not with the intention of doing this. I moved out because all my friends were going to college and university, and I had no plans, and I didn't want to go to college or university and spend that kind of money when I was like, I have no idea what I want to do.
Yeah, smart.
So I moved out west to snowboard and just drink for a few years, I guess, party it up. Well, yeah. I wanted to live the college life without the responsibility of actually studying and doing any kind of work.
That's extremely smart. Yeah, because you know what? All that college work ruined my college career. Like, if it wasn't for the school work, I would have that would have been the best time of my life.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh boy, yeah. I only made it a year and a half, but I feel like I crunched enough partying into that year and a half that it made up for the other semesters I didn't make it.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much partying you could have accomplished in a year and a half.
A lot. How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm turning 41 next week, actually.
Beautiful. 41 years young. And so about this time, is the restaurant called the Ritzy Restaurant, or it was just a Ritzy restaurant?
It was a Ritzy restaurant. It was actually the Banff Park Lodge is what I was working at. So the Banff Park Lodge was ritzier than what I was working at.
Okay.
But I found like everything at the ritzy restaurant was out of a bucket. It was pre-made, and they're charging an arm and a leg for this stuff. And I came from like this small restaurant where we made everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Things were reasonably priced, and everything like we've put our heart and soul into this food that we made. And then I go to this restaurant where I'm supposed to train there, and everything's coming out of a bucket or out of a bag. And I was like, what is this? This is brutal.
It was beneath you, Nathan. It was beneath
it took a lot out of it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. But and you found that maybe food wasn't the direction that you wanted to go in. Maybe like, the restaurant industry is not, I don't want to be a chef. And so you had that thought at that point. Did you know you wanted to get into construction?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I went through quite the journey before I made it to construction. And construction, doing drywall, I kind of fell into completely by accident.
Sure.
I started doing drywall, and I remember the tapers coming in, and I was like, I am never going to do that aspect of the job. Like, I was like, that seems like something I just don't want to do. And then the company I was working for, we would have jobs, we would do framing and drywall, and then it would come to taping, and a lot of times it would be like, okay, we got to lay you off because our next job doesn't start for 3 weeks yet. They would hire tapers. So eventually I just asked them like, hey, can I maybe start learning how to tape, and then maybe you can keep me on the job a little longer so I don't have to get laid off.
And they're like, nice try, Border.
Yeah. No, actually they were all for it, because we would hire tapers and they would do this job, but then of course we weren't ready for them on the next job. So they would go find something else. And then my bosses, eventually would have to look for other tapers to come and do the next job. So for me to be like, if I can, learn how to do this, and then we can do everything. And then of course it ended up being me on like every job taping for the next like 2 or 3 years solely, like no drywall, no framing.
And how cool too, you had the background in framing and drywall, which is I think a feather in your cap. Those dudes are really sought after, at least in my experience.
Absolutely. And there was a lot of times where one job would be to a certain point where it was like, hey, well, there's no point in sending a whole crew back there. And they would be like, hey, Nate, can you just go and finish up, it's like 6 sheets of drywall or whatever, the odds and ends of drywall, and then just start taping everything. And I'd be like, yeah, cool, no problem.
Okay.
So,
how did you learn how to finish though? What was the curve on that? Did you have like some dudes that took you under your wing?
I was really kind of thrown into it, and it was really trial and error.
Yeah.
I had to ask questions if I had them. And I remember, so we did, when I worked commercial drywall, we did a lot of Tim Hortons renovations and McDonald's renovations and everything. Tim Hortons, the smile cookies that.
For you, don't jump the gun. We'll get into the smile cookie.
Okay.
For you Americans that don't know, Tim Hortons is the equivalent of like Starbucks for Canada. It's like
or Dunkin' Donuts. Is Dunkin' Donuts still a thing?
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts would probably be more apropos because it's like donuts and coffee. Yeah. So anyways, okay, continue on. You're doing these McDonald's and Tim Hortons.
So Tim Hortons, they had like a texture on their walls and bulkheads and everything that we were smoothing out. So I was told on the first time that I'm taping, okay, we need you to smooth out these bulkheads. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And they said, just put the mud on and take it off. And I'm like, okay, that sounds easy enough. So I'm literally putting it on and taking it off. I do this for like a week. And then I go on my honeymoon with my wife, my fresh wife, we just married and everything. And I come back from my honeymoon and I ask the big boss, I'm like, hey, how's it going? How did that Tim Hortons turn out? And he looks at me and he goes, fucking terrible. And I'm like, what? And he was like, yeah, he's like, I had to do the whole thing all over again.
Yeah, we had to redo it.
Yeah, he's like, what were you doing there? I was like, I don't know. I was told just to put the mud on and take it off. He's like, well, you have to leave a little on. He's like, we're trying to smooth out the things. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's not what I was told. And nobody
told me to leave a little on.
And And he was super nice. He's just like, well, if that's what you were told, like that's what you did. He's like, we need to show you. You need to, But
And
I
if
just
you're
laughed
not,
so
if
hard.
you're out there, you're not a drywall finisher. And we do have a couple of people that sort of listen in that aren't drywallers now, that are just kind of curious about these crazy people that are drywallers, and they just kind of like the podcast. When you're applying mud, I think the misconception is that, I think from a layman perspective, is that you leave all this mud on the wall. Well,
Yes.
that's not really true. You take most of the mud off, and that's why we professional drywall finishers don't have to sand so much, is because you can feather or smooth that butt and band out, to a nice slight hump, so that it only requires a little bit of brushing with the sander. And so when they say, put it on and take it off, I say the same thing for the second coat of Fresco Harmony. You're skimming it, or we call it tight. You skim it tight, you put the mud on, you take it off, but you don't take all the mud off. You're pulling the wall essentially flat, like, as opposed to frosting a cake where you leave frosting on the cake. You would sort of leave a really tight skim of frosting on the cake, something like that, to use a food metaphor. Okay, so you're doing these Tim Hortons. I wanted to get a timeline really quick too. So how old are you? You're just freshly married, so
I was 30, actually.
Okay, so not too long ago, about 11 years ago, you're getting married. You decide to jump into the drywall finishing aspect of the trade. Go for it. So the boss is like, you're fired. Get out of here. No. I don't want to see your face again.
That would have made sense, but no, they were super nice. They worked with me. It was just one of those things. The people that I learned from too, really good at what they do, right? I see a lot of buildings and everything, now that I'm in the trade, especially, you walk into buildings, houses, whatever, like you're constantly, your head's up, you're looking at ceilings, you're looking at freeways, you're looking at everything, right?
Yeah.
So I see a lot of places, unfortunately, that I look at and I'm like, Jesus, how did these guys get away with it? How did no one get called back to fix this? This looks awful.
Yeah.
But the guys that I learned from, if they cut corners, the corners they cut still left a good product, where I see other things and I'm just like, I don't understand how no one got in trouble for that, or no one was called back for that. But I mean, it happens all the time, people don't know what they're looking at or whatever. People don't care. I mean, I worked at a restaurant, worked construction doing finishing at a restaurant, and we asked the owner, he came in and saw our work, and we're like, hey, what do you think? It looks good, eh? And he says, I don't care. He says, as long as my cash register goes ching 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 at the once you guys are done, he's like, I don't care what it looks like. And I'm just like, well, I'm super glad that we're putting all this effort into your place here, you seem really, really happy about
it. Don't know. I wouldn't say that. Even if somebody said that to my face, I wouldn't take it verbatim, because walls do matter. Like, I'm in a world of beautiful walls. I don't think it's so much as I don't care what that wall looks like. Because if that guy's register was going ching ching and he had to stare at ugly ass patches and fatty edges all day, you notice when you're sitting on the pot in the powder room, you notice the little imperfections in your bathroom. That's generally, in my experience, where people have the most complaints about Fresco Harmony, because they're sitting on the toilet every morning. They're seeing two walls. They're seeing every little blemish on those two walls. I think it's more of a perception shift where people don't appreciate the value of a nice looking wall. But I guarantee, all the laymen, and if you're listening out here and you're not a drywall finisher, you know what I'm talking about. You can see those bad humps and seams in your track house, and they bug you. or maybe you own an older, or you have a commercial older building and you see those patches that were done real shittily and they look
Yeah.
bad and they just stand out like a sore thumb. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about aesthetics. Like that would never fly on countertops or like, some of the other trades, and you can kind of tell with tile, if a tile's not done really well, it looks shitty. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the grout lines aren't straight, things like that. So
Yeah, or if they don't level out their tile or something like that, that's awful too.
the guy tells you he doesn't really care, and what's the point of that story?
Um, Honestly, it was one of the things that not that particular event, but I mean all the stuff working commercial, um, really kind of like I don't do commercial anymore. I do residential. Um, and it's stuff like that, and then going into residential and seeing how appreciative homeowners are
Okay.
when I work in their house, when I do renovations or patchwork or anything, and seeing people that are like, "Thank you so much for doing this," and it's like, wow, people actually like what I'm doing and appreciate the
Okay.
fact that I come here to get it done, and I do the best that I can. And
Yeah.
if I leave, and no, I've never had this where I've gotten called back to a house where people are like, "This is brutal," because I always try and do a good job.
Yeah.
But if that were to ever happen, where it's like, "Hey, we noticed this," I mean, I have no problem going back and fine tuning some things. Yeah, you can't just be coming back every other day to fix something because they found
Mm-mm.
something else.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't like I don't like this lap line, or like is that gonna look like that? Is that swirl right there gonna stay? It's like, yeah, that's gonna stay. That's part of the wall. Like,
yeah, that's how it looks.
I can come back and reskim the wall and you'll bitch about something else, guaranteed. So that
Yeah,
customer management and all that stuff. But it happens in drywall too. People essentially just don't want to see it. They
yeah.
want to see a flat wall or a lightly textured wall or even a textured wall, depending on where you're at. Um,
Yeah.
cool. So you're working for, at that point, what was the name of the company?
They were called Sounce Drywall. So it was actually
How do you
my
spell that?
well, it's a French last name.
Okay.
It actually spells out Sanche. So it's Sanche, but it's French, so it's pronounced Sounche.
Sanche.
Sounche, yep, exactly.
Okay. In Spanish, it might be
Uh,
Sanche.
yeah, actually, a lot of people, when we're on jobs, I've heard site supers and stuff be like, Sanchez, is Sanchez here? And we're
Yeah.
like, there's no Z.
Sanche. And how long are you with these guys before you decide to break out on your own?
Not this past January, last January.
Oh, so freshly on your own.
Yeah,
Um,
so I left them and I went and worked for a home renovation company for about 9 months.
okay.
Um, and when I left Sounce Drywall, it was um, like a good breakup. It wasn't. I just felt like I needed to go. There
Okay.
was no
Sure.
hard feelings. I wasn't like, screw you guys, I'm out of here. I was just like, okay, you
No,
know
they
what?
were probably
I think,
sad. They were probably sad to see you go. You're a nice guy and you're
and
probably
I
a
was sad
hard
too.
worker. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a great company to work for. They looked out for me, and I just enjoyed the team that we had, which made it harder to leave. And I think without the team environment that we had, I probably would have been gone sooner. But I mean, I just loved working hard for that team. Like I had
Okay.
no problems
Yeah.
going in on weekends. And I mean, after my wife and I started having kids, and I remember a few times where it was like, hey, can you come in on Saturday and work? And I was like, no, I can't. I got my kid.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, we'll give you double time. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not it doesn't really matter. What about like triple time? And I'd be like, no, I like, honestly, I'm like, I would come in for regular time because I know we have to get this job done. I'm like, but I have my kid, so I can't.
So you leave Sounds Drywall and you go to work for where do you go then?
I went to a home renovation company with
What
a
was the
good
name?
name.
What was the name of
Uh,
those guys?
Carey Homes.
Carey Homes. I feel like
And
I've
they
heard of them before on the show.
possibly there's actually two
Okay.
Carey Homes. One of them, I believe, is like new builds.
Okay.
And then this one, they do like home renovations. Is the one that I went to. I didn't
Okay.
know there was two until I was talking to my apprentice that I had when I was working commercial, and he was doing piecework for a company out of, I think it was like Kitchener or Cambridge, and
Okay.
he was asking me, who are you working for? And I'm like, oh, Carey Homes. And then he sends me a picture of Carey Homes spelled differently, and he was like,
Okay.
yeah, that's who I'm working for. And I was like, oh my god. I'm like, I had no idea, but I'm like, no, it's not the same thing.
All
um,
right.
but yeah, I worked for them for only like 9 months. um,
Did you start your own business and do drywall for Carey Homes, or were you working for Carey Homes as their token finisher or something?
No, I was working for Carey Homes as their token finisher and token
Okay.
drywall guy,
Okay.
which was fine uh, for a bit. Like I said, I didn't work there very long. I started doing, I guess I kind of started my company as I was working for them,
Okay.
and I had kind of hooked up with a couple companies that were flipping houses out in Kitchener,
Okay.
Ontario. So what I would do was I would go and work for myself, help flipping these houses, and I would go in at like midnight and work until like 6 in the morning. And then I would drive an hour from Kitchener to go to work for this renovation company, and I would work there for the day, and then I would come home and cook for my kids and get them into bed. My wife and I, we were on kind of two separate shifts sometimes. She's a massage
Okay.
therapist, so she's kind of working when everybody else is off.
Beautiful.
Um,
Do you get massages?
Occasionally,
Okay.
I try not to
That might be
force it.
that might be a different podcast
You
entirely.
know what? I was going to say she would probably massage me a lot more than I let her, but and it's not that I don't want them. I just look at it like I don't want to come home from work and do more drywall and taping,
You're a big teddy bear. You let her get away with that.
yeah,
Oh man,
absolutely.
it reminds me of the Jerry Seinfeld where
Yes. Yes.
he's
Grabs
trying to
her
get
hands, puts them on, and he's just talking to her, and she just starts doing it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm a big Seinfeld fan.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. So okay. So Carey Homes. We're back at Carey Homes. You're working for these guys. What happens? You're like, screw these guys. I'm gonna go on my own. I'm done.
Pretty much. Now, I wish it ended better than it
Okay.
did.
Okay.
But and I mean, it shouldn't have ended as bad as it did, because I mean,
Okay.
I was starting to get disgruntled
Ooh, this
working for
sounds
them,
good. This sounds juicy. Let's dig in.
right? But my issues were for me going on my own, thinking about how they were running their business and how they were doing jobs.
Yeah.
And like to me, I was just like, okay, this isn't really an issue with anything. It's their business. They can run it however they want. I just wouldn't run my business like this. So that was me
Sure.
being like, okay, I'm going to go on my own because I would rather do things differently.
Well,
Um,
there's a pattern because you had that attitude too with the crappy
with the restaurant. Yeah.
with the Ritzy restaurant. You were like, this is not fresh farm fresh. I need
Yeah.
like, I'm the bear. I want to work for the bear, like doing like this amazing, like, it's French, should be like a better standard, no different at Carey Home. You're like,
No.
they're like they're using food out of the box.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, my biggest pet peeve with especially like taping and mudding is having someone else tell me when my work is finished. You know, I used to get a lot of that where it was just like, don't worry about it. No one's going to notice that. And I'm like, well, I notice. Like, that's why
Yeah.
people call us to do the job, because we're supposed to be the ones to be like, it's not finished yet. I need another day. So I had jobs that I would go to and I would mud and do some things too. And then I would get called to another job or put on a different job. And then I would get put back to this job to help put furniture together or like, whatever, do a washroom, you're putting a toilet in or a,
Okay.
vanity or something like that. And I would come and the ceilings would be painted or something like that. And I could see all the mud. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Like that wasn't even ready for paint and now it's
Okay.
painted. So that really bothers me.
Okay.
And now being my own boss, I'm the one that gets to say when I'm finished,
And so you went to the big boss and you were like, I don't want to work for you anymore because you guys, your quality is beneath me.
It would have been perfect. I actually wrote a glowing resignation and just, said I was thankful for my time with them. Because, I mean, ultimately, that time with them is what I needed to be like, you know what, I'm just going to go out on my own. And
Okay.
now I'm doing what I really want to be doing. And realistically, when I left the commercial drywall company, I should have just went on my own then. But I think I was just a little too scared to jump right in and, get my feet wet, I guess. So I went with this other company. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so now this is an interesting part of the story to me. I'm an entrepreneur. I know there's a jumping off point. Were you scared? You've got a family. There's something to be said for that steady paycheck that comes in, full benefits, maybe, like all of this
yep.
kind of stuff. You start working on your own. It's just a completely different ball game. All of a sudden you have to be like a business major 101. You got to know about taxes, you got to know about business, buying materials, write-offs, like all this stuff. But walk me through that transition.
That was a tough one. So I quit my job.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a spur of the moment thing, even though it was kind of leading up to, but it was kind of, I should have done more preparation to start my own business, right?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I did not. I was
maybe
just
get
like,
some
all right,
side jobs, going a little bit.
Well, I did have some side jobs going on.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I quit. I gave my 2 weeks. They didn't accept that. They said, we'll give you 1 week. And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? They're only giving me 1 week.
Weird.
Like they were super mad.
They were just dicks about it, right? They were just dicks. Sour grapes.
Yeah.
Do they use the expression? Do they use the expression sour grapes? And
they do, and that's exactly what it was, because they are actually really nice people. I do have a lot of respect for them, but yes, I think it was sour grapes. They got a little upset that I was handing in my resignation, I guess, only after 9 months or whatever, and yeah, they were like, no, that's not. We'll give you 1 week. And
to your credit, they were losing a good guy. To your credit, man.
Yes, and my wife says, like, it's like, breaking up with someone, they weren't happy about it, and I get it, I understand. I wish things could have been a little different, but they weren't, and it is what it is.
It's I've got two more episodes. It's not you, it's me episode. Yeah, there's that one that came up for me, and then also the Kramer one where it's like, do you just write it off? Like, Jerry says, you don't even know what a write-off is. He's like, so? He's like, do you? Jerry's like, no. He's like, but they're the ones writing it off. Yeah. That's pretty much all business. Okay, so you jump out on your own. No problems, or did you just start getting jobs? And you're at, like, I guess, the tail end of COVID. So we're coming out of COVID. So we're coming out of this challenging time socially, and you're starting a business. Probably a good time to start a business, I would say. Did you enjoy it right away? You liked it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Getting to honestly, and I've been really lucky that I haven't had any crummy clients. All my clients have been super awesome.
Oh man, you should not have said that, dude.
I know. Knock on wood. Should I knock on something?
Yeah, definitely knock on wood.
Yeah. And yeah, I haven't had any issues. So I had that the last 2 weeks of work with that company, 1 week I actually worked, the second week I was off, which
Okay.
was when my wife, God bless her, picked up all the slack, helped me
Okay.
make a website, helped
Beautiful.
me pick out my logo.
What's your
And
website?
the website's nathansdrywall.ca.
And is there an apostrophe there?
Uh, Not on the website, or
Not on
like
the
not
web.
on my, yeah, not on the,
Nathans
yeah,
drywall.
drywall.ca. Yeah. There is in my actual logo and my name and stuff,
Okay. All
but just
right.
for the website purpose, yeah, we didn't. I don't even know if you could put an apostrophe
I don't either.
in an address.
And she helped you with your logo.
Yeah. Oh, she helped me with. I always tell people, like, I'm like 90% of what you see or hear about before I even get to your door to do the work
Yeah.
is my wife. I'm like,
Where'd you find this unicorn?
Uh,
And
we actually met on eHarmony. Is eHarmony in the States, online
yeah,
dating?
eHarmony was one of the first ones. Match.com.
Was it? Yeah, Match. Yeah.
Match.com and eHarmony. So you met her on eHarmony roughly 11, 12 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Okay.
And we were both actually ready to kind of get off. We were like, okay, we're kind of done with this whole thing. And the whole reason that I did it was because all my friends and everybody that I was hanging around at that time were already paired up, married, in relationships. Okay. So I'd be going to the same parties with the same people. And I'm like, I'm not meeting anybody new here. It's not like I go out to clubs or bars to meet people. So I was like, hey, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? So I went online and started
and it
going
worked.
on some dates with some people.
It worked. Yeah. Very cool. So your wife, you were lucky in that she was on board, because that's also those are tricky waters to navigate too. You got family. Does she have benefits with her job, or is she like self-employed as well?
She actually started her own clinic a couple years ago.
Okay. So, wow. Two entrepreneurs. That's great.
Yes. Which honestly, I think a lot of that, because she had navigated all the waters herself to do her own thing. So, I mean, when I kind of broke off, that's where she was like, okay, well, I'm going to start your website. I'm going to get this. Yeah. Okay, well, let's contact these people and get your logo made. And
business
I mean,
license. Here, it's like a business license, and but
yeah, I think we need the same thing.
Same thing. Okay.
And I mean, Nathan's Drywall, that was her idea. I wanted to name my company, what was it? Acoustical Engineering.
People are like, what do you play? What do you play, the guitar?
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, it always used to be a joke when people, like, you hear about these jobs and they're like, oh, no, actually, we're not called stewardesses anymore. We're now flight attendants. Right. And it's like, so we used to joke around in the drywall trade that it was, oh, no, I'm not a drywaller. I'm an acoustical engineer. What does that mean? Well, I mean, once I put this wall up, you can't hear me talking, right? So, I mean, the acoustics are much better.
Interesting. I think of this ceiling acoustics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of.
And I do those too.
Yeah. I did a little bit in the union. It was fun. Yeah. Like the dude would cut it. I was an apprentice, so I just was walking around in stilts and put it in.
Popping them in.
Okay, I'm ready for the next one. Yeah. Cool. So how did you get work?
My first job was actually, I was like bringing my kid to the school bus in the morning. This, 1 week that I'm off work because I quit my job. And the funny thing about that, the company actually paid me for the 2 weeks, for my 2 weeks.
Beautiful.
But they didn't let me work my last week, which was the weirdest thing ever.
Whatever.
Not that I was complaining. So so that week I'm dropping my kid off at the school bus, and somebody walks up to me, and they had seen on Facebook, because there's a community Facebook page for the town that I live in. And of course I had posted like, hey, Nathan's Drywall starting up.
Smart.
Needs any work done.
Yeah.
And
hell yeah.
And he came up to me. He's walking his dog, and he's like, how far will you travel for work? And at this time I've got nothing. So I'm like, wherever, man.
500 miles.
Yeah, whatever you got for me, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And his sister lived like an hour and a half away,
Uh,
Wasaga Beach, and yeah, he was like, yeah, they moved into this house. She's living in an unfinished basement, and she was in a wheelchair, and she's living with her daughter and son-in-law. And her son-in-law is in construction, but just can't find the time to finish the basement. So she's living in like just raw drywall. And
beautiful.
he was like, "Would you go there and tape it?" And I was just like, "Yeah, that's fine." I did it for an hourly rate, and I mean, I charged for my drive down there, so
Okay.
I was like,
Okay, so
"Perfect."
you started out sort of charging hourly. You probably moved on to more of a piece rate structure
Yeah, I mean,
now
I still do
by the
hourly
job. You
occasionally,
still
depending on what it looks like. I always tell people
what scenarios would you do hourly for?
like patchwork.
Okay.
If someone's like, "Hey, can you come? I've got these like 5 patches that need to
Do
be
you have a
done in my
minimum? Do
house."
you have a minimum though? Because sometimes those can be a waste of time.
Well, that's why I charge hourly, right? Because I'm like, and
Yeah.
that's the thing about patches and stuff too. Like people don't necessarily understand the amount of work that goes into stuff. Like, and when I do an hourly job for someone, I'll be like, this is my hourly rate plus tax plus material, and I'll look at the job and I'll say it'll be about 10 hours.
Okay. All right.
So I try to give them an estimate of how much time it'll take for me to
I
get it
feel
done.
like too, you are a very friendly person, and I feel like you're probably pretty good at expectation, which is why you haven't ran into a lot of issues with clients. I see a lot of issues arise with clients around expectation. Like if you're
Yeah,
not managing expectation properly, you're on a different wavelength than the client. They're expecting something and getting something else. To me, that's where problems occur. If you have clear
oh, absolutely.
communication, that
Yeah,
you're going to have more success,
if I get a job where I get to do the drywall and the taping, I'll tell people if I can do the drywall and the taping, I will warranty my work for a year. So if you get any cracking or anything like that, I will
Beautiful.
come back
Okay.
within 12 months and I'll fix it.
That's
But
cool.
I've had jobs where they ask me to quote drywall and taping, and I give them a quote, and they'll be like, "Can you just come and tape? We'll do our own drywall." And I say, "Yeah, that's fine. I could do that, but I'm not warranting any of my work because
Oh, okay.
everybody thinks drywall work is easy, and it's like it is. It's not hard, but there's still a process to it to do it
Yeah.
properly, right?"
If you're not cutting out
So
blisters, and if your screws aren't, if you don't have enough screws in the field or on the edge, or you can't warranty
yeah,
that because you're more likely to have cracks or
exactly.
blisters,
Yeah,
nail
yeah,
pops, things like that.
yeah. So I
Cool.
mean, to that, I just need people to understand. Like, I want to do the best that I can do, and if you let me do that, I can do that. But if you
Okay.
don't, sometimes it's a money issue, and I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine. If you want things done cheaper, you can get it done cheaper. I just can't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I'm not coming back for the next 12 months because you didn't want to pay me to drywall. You wanted this guy that did it for $1,000 less than I would do it for,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Okay, fast forward to today. You've been running your company a little while. Do you have employees?
No employees. I'm a one-man show right now.
Beautiful.
Um, it's working really well. Like I said, my wife owns two massage clinics,
Beautiful.
and she does have people underneath her. So the way
I'm
things
getting
have
a
kind of
massage next time I come to Ontario. I'm getting a massage.
okay, that's actually you will not regret that. She is
I'm
very
sure
good
I
at what she
would.
does. Oh my goodness,
I love a good massage.
you'll be in for a treat, really.
Cool, cool. So you're both have successful businesses now. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's working out, and I mean, with my business and her business, one of the things that I like is that I get to put my kid on the bus every morning. Some days I get to be home before he's even off the bus, so I get to pick him up, and I get to see my family. I haven't heard anybody. In fact, one of the things of advice that I have had is like spend time with your kids. You're never going to regret
Yeah.
the amount of time that you spend with your kids.
Nope.
And working for these other companies that want to pay you, um, you know, not really what it's worth to do the job that we're doing, to be honest.
You were wise though back in the day when you said, "Nah, I'm not going to do it for triple or quadruple the money. It's not about the money. I can't get that time back." People don't realize that, especially early on. You're hungry, you want to make money. That's all fine. But as a father that enjoys hanging out with my son, that is a very bit precious thing. And it's like, he's already 7. It's like, he's halfway there. They turn 13. They're gone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, eventually there's going to be that time where they don't want anything to do with us. And it's like, okay, well, then I'll start working more and I'll start taking those jobs. Like I see Brawley's dad, who works so much, and part of me's jealous, because I like to work hard and I like to get things done. But the other part of me is like, I'm perfect. Like, things are perfect the way they're working out right now. Like, most days I go for like 6 hours. I get done what I need to get done.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a one-man crew. So when I go check out a job, I'm like, okay, it's probably going to take me about 2 to 2.5 weeks to get this done. Yeah. And I'll let the people know that. They're totally okay with it. So I'm not doing 10 and 12-hour days ever right now.
No, time is a precious commodity, and you have something you can grow to a certain point. You're in charge of how much money you make. It's pretty fantastic in this trade to run your own company. It's a pretty good gig.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very lucky where I'm at right now. Since I started in last September, I've had like no downtime. I've actually had times where I'm like, I'm going to take, this time off at Christmas, or actually I was supposed to have like this upcoming week off. I was going to do paperwork and stuff like that. And I picked up 2 jobs, like, I'm like, I haven't had any time where I've been like,
and are you getting to the point where you pump the price a little bit on job? You don't want to take the job, so you pump the price a little bit. You still get the job. It's like,
I've done that.
Yeah.
Occasionally. And then I've had others where, I tell them the price and they're like, no, that's not.
Yeah. You think it's good. And they're like, what are you, nuts? This is just drywall. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not going to waste the time. Sorry.
Exactly. I'm like, it's cool if you don't want me to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I feel like I'm at the point now where like, I know what I'm bringing to the table. I know what kind of quality I'm going to bring to your place.
Smart.
The work that and the fact that, I will come back and fix things if anything happens. I had one of the guys that I was flipping some houses for. He actually owns a roofing company as well, and he referred me to a house, just like a popcorn removal and a patch job and a ceiling. And I went to go do that, and then of course his company's doing a roof like just down the road. So I pull up and he's there, and I go talk to him, and he's a really good entrepreneur and knows his stuff. And so he's talking to me, and then he was telling me like, like, people are buying you. He's like, anybody, how many drywallers and tapers there are around? Like, people are buying you when they're buying Nathan's drywall.
They'll pay for they'll pay a few extra thousand for Nathan. You bet.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I feel like that's kind of, like I said, I've had great clients. And it's not just that I've had great clients. I feel like part of it is me doing the job. It's, I'm not presenting these problems. My process is like, I go into someone's house. First of all, I'm super thankful that these people let me come into their house.
Yeah. Smart.
Secondly, like, I don't know if it's like this where you are, but drywallers, I'm going to say especially, but construction workers, people will go into someone else's house and they're, fuck this and screw that, and I don't want to do this and everything. And it's like, man, you're in someone's house, show some respect.
Yeah.
So
you're in their like sanctum. You're in their that's their sanctuary. Be respectful if you're out there listening, and even if you're working for somebody, try to be respectful. If the homeowner is there, try to watch your language. these types of
Yep.
simple things. And that's a reflection of your company too. So, yeah, very important. And you've got one Fresco Harmony job under your belt now, so you can start throwing your Fresco Harmony hat in the ring on some of these jobs. We'll
Yeah,
nurture you through it.
I'm going to a place tomorrow to tape a bathroom, and I'm going to talk to the people and bring my samples with me, and
Yeah,
I'm going to offer a free feature wall if they'd
there you
like
go.
it done. So I think I'm going to start doing that because I really want to start doing more Fresco Harmony work.
It's fun.
Um,
It's a lot of fun. And
yeah,
it's an easy way to make extra money on a job that you're already on.
and it looks so good, like done.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. You've made a very good product, and I love it. So I'm
Thanks.
looking forward to doing more work with it.
You know what, the blessing is that I get to do it. I've done it for 20 years, doing these walls in people's homes, like, over 1 million square feet, like just an
Yeah,
insane amount of colored mud. And the coolest part is getting to share it now and watching you take it and do something totally like wacky on a backsplash. And it's like, oh, I'd never do that. That's so cool. You
yeah.
know, um, it's so cool. It's such a cool thing. It's
When
cool.
I saw Cam, the one video, I'm sure you saw this, where he had his hawk and he just put the mud on and he took the black, I don't know what color it was, but
Yeah, yeah,
poured it on the mud, just kind of mixed it up quick, and he's just putting it on that wall. And I
yeah,
think it was a washroom too. That looks so sharp. Like,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
confidence that people have is pretty awesome.
Well, Cam came down here though, and he spent 2 weeks, and like
Yeah,
I threw him to the wolves, man, and he did a bunch of fresco, and so by the time he left, he was a pro, so it worked out
yeah.
pretty well. But he was open to coming down. Anyone's welcome to come down here and train with Fresco Harmony. I love meeting people. We just had Jonathan Dansby down here. He hung out
Oh,
for a
cool.
week, did a fireplace, turned out great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, just good stuff. Good stuff. I
Yeah.
always like to
I
get
might take you up on that, by the way.
anytime, and bring your wife and kids. Albuquerque's pretty cool. The high desert's pretty cool. It's
Yeah,
a unique place. We have Santa Fe is right next door. There's Meow Wolf. There's a lot of neat energy down here. But yeah,
yeah.
and then you and I hang out during the day. I can give them, like, they could do the Breaking Bad tour, like whatever. And maybe not with the kids, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot to do here. It's a pretty cool place, and you and I just go off, and I'd throw you on a fireplace, or we'd hang out in the studio and just make samples or whatever. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Pearl of wisdom, Nathan. I know you're excited. You're excited to divulge your pearl of wisdom. What is it?
Oh man. You know what? For me, it's kindness breeds kindness. Just be a good person. I'm not. I'm not someone that's like never swear or make sure you go to church or something like that. Just be a good person, man.
Love it.
Kindness breeds kindness. Me running around with smile cookies. That was me just trying to bring smiles to people's face
Yeah.
and be a good guy.
I loved how you and Shawn were competing with the smile cookies to be who could be nicest. I was like,
Well,
fucking Canadians, man. They're so
and
nice. They're trying to out nice each other. What the hell's the
he
matter
didn't
with
even.
you guys? Need to come down here and get me. You need to get like have some of the
Well,
American like edginess rub off on you.
yeah. He didn't even actually know that I was doing that. He was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go to Fresco Harmony. You want to or Fresco Harmony? We're gonna go to CSR." And he was
Yeah.
like, "Do you want to go? Maybe we should bring some smile cookies." And I was like, "Have you seen my stories from today or whatever?" And he's like, "No, why?" And I'm like, "Why don't you just watch my stories?" And then he got
Yeah.
back to me. He's like, "What the heck, man? You bringing smile cookies to everyone?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I
Yeah.
went through 7 dozen already." And he was like, "What?" And
That's pretty
then
funny.
yeah, he brought I think 3 dozen to CSR. And I was like, well, if you already went, I said, should I even bother bringing any? He was like, yeah, bring some for sure. He's like, because the guys in the back probably haven't had any. So I walk in there with another 3 dozen smile
That's
cookies.
so funny.
You should have seen these people's faces. They were like, I don't want another cookie at
No
all.
more
And
smile cookies, you guys.
I felt so bad. I'm like, oh God, should I take them with me? Like, I was like, I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
But
That's
I don't
funny.
know. Yeah,
That's
it
funny.
was pretty hilarious.
Super cool. Well, what I've known about the Canadians so far is you guys are super awesome, very good finishers up there, and I love going up. It's always a treat. Nathan Binkle. Go ahead.
German.
It's German.
It's German. Yeah.
Nathan Binkle of Nathan's Drywall from Erin, Ontario, 41-year-old entrepreneur. Thank you for being on the Drywall Podcast today. We appreciate it. Yeah, let's we'll have to dive into the smile cookies next time, but I'll probably be at the
Black Friday event.
The Black Friday. Yeah, that might be a regular one for me. I can only get up there so many times. We did get into England. GWI is sponsoring the month of July on the Drywall Podcast, and they are going to be carrying Fresco Harmony. We're working on, efficient routes to get the product over there. I'm very excited about going over there to do a training. They have a lot of
congratulations.
Interest.
That's
Thank
wicked.
you. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, same thing. They're just drywallers, man. Go over there and just hang out, play with colored mud. They're all excited about it.
Yeah, cool.
I don't care where you're from. Doesn't matter to me, man. But cool. Well, thank you for being on the Drywall Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
What a great conversation, huh? It was cool.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah.
All right,
I was slightly nervous, but everything was good. Yeah.
Gravy. You crushed it, dude. You're an excellent conversationalist.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it again. Thank you. Until next time, and we'll see you on social media. It's what's your social media handle on Instagram?
Nathan's Drywall on Instagram, and Nathan Binkle on Facebook.
Nathan Binkle on Facebook.
Nathan Binkle on
Nathan Binkle. If you want to get kicked off of his page, you could call him Nathan Binkle. If you want to be his friend, Binkle. Cool, buddy. And do you have any YouTube, any videos on YouTube or anything?
I do not have any YouTube
okay.
yet. Possibly something that I can work on and stretch out for the future. And
yeah. There's always room to grow, man. Cool. Well, we'll check out the website, Nathan's Drywall, no apostrophe .ca, and go follow him on social media. Your stories are fantastic. The guys like you are fun to follow for sure.
Good. Thank you.
All right, sir. We'll talk soon, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. You too.
All right. Bye.
See ya.
Special thanks to Nathan for gracing us with his presence on the Drywall Podcast today, sir. I know you are going to be a super success in this industry. The Drywall Podcast was sponsored in the month of July by our friends at GWI in the UK, supplying finishing products since 2021, delivering quality brands nationwide. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, or go online at www.gwiltd.com for all your finishing needs. I'm super excited to also announce that GWI will be carrying Fresco Harmony, and we'll be going over there sometime in early September for a training. Stay tuned for details on that. Thank you so much for joining me and Nathan on the Drywall Podcast today. This was a fun one, and I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, just keep drywalling.